So we have understood how do we create our own module. We have also seen how does we give multiple functions into a module and how do we call them, right? So the same process you can extend, and that's how really modules are built, and that's where Python has gained so popularity because it's an open source community, right? Where multiple people from all over the world they start contributing, and that is the reason Python is extending the wings to any field. That's the reason if you try to enter into learn Python, just make it simple. You need to understand the structure of understanding or creating your own function, and then you make it as a module. That's it. Then you start working on multiple projects relating to it, whether you want to move into web application or data analysis or testing or database. Just understand the core structure and go with the documentation part. That's it. You need not relate anywhere. That is the reason we strongly believe there are no basic things in Python. I mean, there are no steps or stages in Python, basic Python, core Python. That's a marketing strategy. Please don't believe in that. That is the reason we'll be making our Python course in such a way that you understand each and every main concepts. So then once you finish this course, you can expand your wings to your desired field, right? As we human beings, we commit so many errors, right? Generally, without making errors, our life will not move ahead, right? That is the reason in this particular video, I wanted to just revise some basic things which we need to follow when we start coding, when we start writing our own code. That's where if you get some errors in your program or software, what does they are called? They are called as bugs, right? That's where I always tell in my videos or whatever the classes I take, and the way I learned is only debugging will help you. So start understanding or write your own program, search for errors, follow the error, debug it. That is the reason even in Python, or we can just classify the errors into three types, mainly compile time errors, runtime errors, logical errors, right? So what are these? Make it very simple. When I say compile time, that's where basically that happens when you're writing your code. Because Python is scripting language, they don't have compilers, we use interpreter, but compilation will take place, right? That's where you see syntactical errors, because that syntax is not matching according to your documentation. So compile time errors and logical errors will be handled by the or can be eliminated by the programmer by checking the source code. There is no handoff or interpreter. But we can handle runtime errors. That's where we have already studied about exceptions. If you want to just revise it, because you just go previous concepts of understanding exceptions, which we have already discussed, try, except, finally block. Yes. So runtime errors are handled by writing exceptions, and compile time and logical, we just make sure that we can see the source code and match it. Okay. To make it very simple, I have taken a simple example of compile time errors. If you clearly see, what you can clearly observe here, these are syntactical errors. What do you mean by syntactical errors? Whatever, if you see the following code, tell me what is the error. I mean, you cannot tell me, but understand yourself. There is a syntax mistake. Why? We are missing colon here. That's where these comes under syntactical errors. So compile time errors generally comes under syntactical errors. And I already told you when we are discussing about built-in functions, let me just go to shell and give you directory of built-ins, because in that you find a list of all errors, and you need not worry about all the errors because they are being classified mainly into three types: compile time, runtime, and logical errors. Because compile time errors basically happens with syntactical errors. The syntax you are making mistakes. That's where indentation error, syntax error all comes here. Suppose if I write some logic here, a is 5 and b is 25, or b is equal to 25, and if I write if a is less than b and I go, what is happening over there? Syntax error, because compilation is going wrong. That's where syntax error comes under compile time errors. And you see these all types of errors. But if you clearly observe, we have discussed so many of them in previous program. Only we have seen that is module not found error, we have seen zero division error, we have seen index error, value error. We'll be seeing about file not found error when we go to files concept, right? So just make sure that follow the simple syntax. As I told you, index error, value error, type error, syntax error, indentation error. When it comes to some spaces, suppose if I write like this, this is also syntax error, but it is unexpected indent, right? Suppose when you write some script, suppose if you write if a is less than b and you're not following syntax and you just try to give true. Okay, let's try to see. It is giving you correct result because here space doesn't matter, but when you run from this cell, suppose later if I try to keep this as comment, or why to keep as comment, let me give some space and execute this. You see, unexpected indentation error, that is also comes under compile time errors. So just keep a note of them. Compile time errors are your errors where programmer should handle them. Programmer should just check the source code and modify it. Syntax errors, indentation errors comes under compile time errors, right? And now when you go for the next one which we try to understand is runtime errors. Because basically when you see this particular slide, whenever we see runtime errors, as I told you, they can be handled by programmer. That means even everything will be handled by programmer, just for the kidding sake. But we can handle this by not seeing the source code, but by making some exceptions. Because when you make a lengthy code by developing some application, you cannot read each and every line, right? Suppose if you wanted to make some exceptions, if you have some instinct that it will cause errors, so just give some try except blocks. That's where in compile time and logical errors, we can modify it by checking the source code, by changing the errors, and we can modify it. That's what I've given in the starting slide, by modifying the source code, because they are not matching with the syntax and spaces and everything. And logical error we'll be discussing now. So, but when you go to runtime, the syntax is perfectly correct. That is the reason I gave when Python virtual machine, your syntax is correct, but you are seeing the values are not matching. That's the reason you see you get value error in particular piece of code here. You see, because you gave a plus b, so here giving string, and how does this number can be added? A string and a number will never be added, right? That is one error here. And if you go to this list, and what we are accessing here, animal of 4. What is indexing part here? When you go for this list, 0, 1, 2, 3. Do we have 4th index? I mean, do we have 5th element over there? No, right? That's where you get index error. So index error, value error, type error, all of them come under runtime errors, because when our Python virtual machine, it cannot execute the code, it flags runtime errors. That means it is not matching with the values you are trying to pass. Okay, let me just show you some simple example, then you can relate it. Suppose if I give like this, I give my name and I pass a number. It's a type error, right? How does it will happen? That is not correct, right? Even when you define a function, define cat of a comma b, and you are just giving print of a plus b. Okay, you are trying to give cat of 25 comma p. How does that will happen? So type errors, we have also seen value errors, right? If the values are not matching, and you see attribute errors we have seen. So just recall all of them, and even if you go for index error, suppose if I go for a string like this, I give police police, and if I ask a of 25, it's index error, right? Because there is no 25th index over there. That is the reason if you wanted to handle such kind of runtime errors, what happens? You need to go for exceptions, writing exception blocks. That is second type of main errors. And the third type is logical errors. So what do you mean by logical errors? Basically, that's where there is a flaw in the logic of the program. That's where I in the sense our Python virtual machine cannot detect that flaw, because it is a program where you need to follow structure. You see, line by line, whatever logic you give, your program will understand. That's where we have moved. Our generation have been moved from programming to machine learning. That's where Python is related to that. Even for machine learning, you can relate Python, R programming, Java, C++. But why does Python is widely used? It offers wide community, wide number of packages. That is the reason you don't go with the buzzwords. If you are comfortable with Python, you can relate to full stack web development or database side and testing side. But mainly, if you go to machine learning, you add all the flavors. A person from any background, from statistics or from diploma or from ITI, whatever his background is, he can relate it. That's what Python has made its flexibility. That is the reason even I love Python. I am a Pythonista, and I suggest if you are into this, if you are passionate, then it's a cup of tea, right? So now when we go for logical errors, if you clearly see here, what are we doing here? we are defining a function called as increment. That means I am taking a simple example of increment in salary, right? If I am getting 1000 rupees of salary, 1000 rupees, and if I give 10%, you are adding 100 rupees extra, right? So your salary will be 1100. That's basic example. So here I am trying to use the same logic and I am trying to get the result. I want the total incremented salary. Okay, let me prove it. What are we going wrong over there? Suppose if I try to execute this program, and let me just keep comment. I want to keep this as comment, and I want to execute the logical error flaw here, because the name itself says when we go for logical error, the flaw is with the programmer, it's not with the Python interpreter, because the logic is missing. Your syntax is correct, your values are correct. So I define my salary, my function as increment, and I give the argument as sal. So just I give my doc string as logical error implementation. You can give your own name, it's fine. Whether you give single, triple quotes or double quotes, whatever it is. So I'll give salary is equal to, I just make a simple mistake here. I'll not tell a mistake. So my salary has been incremented as 35%. So 35 by 100. So you just give return sal, right? Fine, that's good. And what I need to do is, just I'll save this, and if you want to print the results, what you give? You just give print of increment of, you can tell your general salary is 10,000. Suppose your salary is 10,000, your increment is 35%. Okay. Now when you run this, what are you getting? 3,500 is your salary. You got 3,500 increment, but I don't want that. I want my incremented salary. What is my incremented salary? It's not this, right? That's where we made a mistake, because our flaw is missing. Our logic is missing in this program. There is a flaw here, because we are not adding our original salary, man. That's where you are missing the logic, because when we have increment, that will be added to original salary, right? That's where our program is not giving any syntax error or values error, because it is clearly a logic error. Now when you execute this, automatically your salary is 13,500. That is your increment. So that is where when you go for logical errors, it should be made by programmer. Our program, whatever programming language you take, it will only do the instructions given by a person. Even you see, people believe what happens with AI, the future we may destroy. It only happens with the person mindset. If we are good, we'll be using in a good way. If we are bad, we will be using in a bad way. That's it. That's what Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, whatnot, any entrepreneur we see, people who are working towards AI, everything is being related, right? Just focus on what you wanted to learn and just make, because logical errors should be handled by the programmer mainly when you're writing the logic. When you go for runtime, that will be handled by exception blocks. So syntax, compile time errors and logical errors can be modified by the programmer by checking the source documentation, that is source code. When you go for runtime, you can directly, when you're writing the program, you can give exceptions and that will be handled. So that is where we have clearly understood the different type of errors. So just keep a note of them, and you need not remember any types of errors. You can just relate whatever the errors which we have got till now, just have a practice on that, make mistakes and learn from mistakes. As I always tell you, follow debugging and your journey will be much more better and will be best.